Hello! Robots. More specifically, Transformers. This is one of like the 5 series young boys I feel are made to get into. I mean, it's robots that turn into cars. And the toys also transform into cars, and I can play with them as cars or as robots. Damn. That is cool. Well, as a child, I never actually got into Transformers. I knew what it was and who the popular characters were, but I always was more of a Ninja Turtle fan. I think a big part of that is that I'm not a car guy. So while robots turning into cars is cool, it's not like the coolest thing to me because cars aren't like the coolest thing to me. But that all changes today. Yep, that's right. I'm gonna get into cars. No, that's actually not true. We're going the other way. Recently, I was having lunch with my friends, and they sprouted into talking about Transformers movies, and I felt so isolated and left out, man. They started bringing up random villains and characters who I had never heard of, like who the hell is Lockdown? So in order for me not to feel left out, I've decided to watch all these movies. Now what that means is today I'm going to watch all theatrical films released in the Transformers series. This takes us from the 2007 film all the way to Transformers 1. I will be skipping the 1986 film, because if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it's like a culmination of the Gen 1 cartoon. And I'm sorry, I don't have time to get caught up on Gen 1. Also, on that topic, we're going to be talking a lot about the Michael Bay films. And I know he is not the most popular person in the Transformers fandom. So I'm going to say if I don't like one of his movies, I'm probably going to blame him more than Transformers. This is so I don't get assassinated by the Transformers fandom. Those guys are scary. Alright, I just wanted to clarify that. That being said, I know next to nothing about this series. Like I said, I know some pivotal characters and stuff, and the fact that the Autobots and Decepticons are fighting over a planet, and that's about it. So what better way to learn than to hop into
I don't know what you're talking about. Username ladiesman217.
Wow. Alright, let me just state, this is not what I thought this film was going to be. And what I mean by that is there's a lot more personality in this thing than I thought there would be. And I gotta be honest, that personality isn't always great. I want to say, I don't think this movie is great, but it's not like god-awful. For me, it's kind of just, It's got like a lot of problems, but I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy some things in it. I've hated Michael Bay a decent chunk on this channel. I don't love him as a person or a director, and I think honestly I'm just not a fan of his style. But I do want to give some props here. This movie is very him, and that may sound kind of weird, but I more mean that there's a lot of passion behind the screen, and you can tell. This movie doesn't feel like anything else I've ever watched, so I give him props for achieving this own kind of recognizable style. That being said, holy shit, this thing is horrendous to watch. What the fuck is this coloring? Why does it feel like I'm being suffocated in some Grease planet where the world is in a constant earthquake? Why is there so much shaky cam in this movie? I feel so disoriented when the world is drenched in yellow and the camera's shaking while we watch a crazy CGI robot fight. I don't mean this in like a rude way, but this movie feels uncomfortable to watch. You know that one scene in Saw 3 where they're like drowning that one guy in the pig carcasses? This movie is probably what that experience felt like. Alright, I don't want to just rag on the visuals because this movie's got some other things. Like I said, it's fine. It may be horrendous to watch, but it's got some things I like. Alert! Alert! When I started writing the script, I did not know Shia LaBeouf is, let's just say, not a very good person. I thought Shia LaBeouf was in like the same realm as like Channing Tatum, where it's just like funny white guy who was in a weird 2000s movie. So I'm about to compliment Shia LaBeouf, but just know I didn't know at the time. You'll see later on I've realized that he was not a very good guy. All right, disclaimer over. I don't like Shia LaBeouf. Again, I do not like Shia LaBeouf. Like one thing I really like in this movie, and I don't know if it's a hot take, but I like Shia LaBeouf's performance. Sam Witwicky is a very interesting character, I guess. He's not like the usual leading man in a movie, but I think Shia LaBeouf plays him in like the best way possible. This character could very easily be unlikable and unfunny, but whenever he's unfunny, it's more the script is being unfunny and not Shia. And he's able to salvage some very unfunny bits. And I guess I just like to see this character archetype of like the guy who's not a soldier, but he wants to help and he can't do everything. I thought that was just kind of unique and interesting, and I had never really seen a series this big do something like that. I really hope they don't throw that away later. Also, Megan Fox's fine, I guess. I know she can act, so her being a dull love interest is probably Michael Bay not knowing women can do other things than be hot. And she honestly also gets some good laughs here and there. As a whole, this movie is a lot funnier than I thought it would be. I laughed several times, both ironically and unironically. Like when Optimus said they learned how to speak English from the World Wide Web. Or when Barricade asked if Sam is Ladies Man 217. I don't know, I giggled at those. And yeah, I'll say it. I think Bumblebee peeing on Irving from Severance was kind of fun. I may not be the strongest man, but at least I stand my ground. I'll stand my ground on this too. I think the designs in this movie are pretty cool. I know this is controversial, and I will give my opinion on the Gen 1 designs later, but for right now, I think it's pretty sweet. The CGI here is pretty damn good, especially for 2007. And even if you don't like the designs, I think you have to give credit to whoever created them, because when they legit transform, it's so impressive how they flow from giant robot to car and vice versa, similar to how the toys are designed and how they transform. But now you might be saying, Isaac, for a movie called Transformers, you have barely talked about those cheeky little robots. And that boils down to my main problem with this film. Yo, the Transformers are not the main characters. Now you might be saying, oh yeah, Shia LaBeouf is, but he helps the Transformers. No. The Transformers as a whole aren't really important to this movie. Let me say that again. In a movie called Transformers, the Transformers are really not that important. Besides Bumblebee, they don't even show up till like an hour into the movie. And the only time they actually fight the Decepticons is Barricade and Bumblebee fighting and the final scene. Yes, in this almost 2.5 hour movie, the bad guys and the good guys we came for fight twice, and they only fight once altogether. And it sucks because the Transformers themselves, when they're there and they're fighting, are really cool. Besides their designs, I like their voices, and I think they're giving good performances, and I think a lot of them have a lot of great unique personalities. But no, I don't want to see them. I would rather hang out with random people. Well, if they didn't fill the movie with Transformers, they must have filled it with something really cool. Huh. Oh, would you guess if it was filler bullshit? Oh my god, Michael, I get it. You like the military. But seriously, what do they add to this movie? This one white guy who I seriously couldn't tell you the name of? That's it? Also, what's the point of the hacker Australian girl and the dad from Blackish? Do they mean anything to the actual fucking story? Actually, yeah, they give us that funny gif where the cops bust into the guy's house. That's pretty funny. But seriously, I just can't stand that in a movie about giant robot cars, Michael Bay said, yeah, but what if we made it about the military? Also, I'm gonna make the most visually hideous thing you've ever seen. And then everyone in the boardroom clapped and they went, Michael, you're a genius. And I only levy all these complaints because when the movie delivers on what you want, it's pretty sweet. The final act of this movie is really cool. When the robots actually start fighting, I mean, yeah, it's still visually not the most appealing thing to look into, but my monkey brain activates and I like it when the big robots start punching each other. Although, another quick complaint, and I think this is a common one, why do the Decepticons all look the same? They're all just gray robots, while the Autobots are all really distinct. The only one that looks visually different is Starscream, and that's just because he's a big fucking Dorito. But counter to that, Megatron is cool. Yeah, his backstory is ridiculous, and it doesn't really make sense, but he's got a scary design. And when he rips the one Transformer in half, that was pretty cool. And, yeah, that's all I've got to say about Transformers 2007. A very unbalanced movie, but it's got enough good elements to make me believe that it can get better. Just cut down the unnecessary bullshit and focus on the dang robots. That's what I'm here for. Also, you can keep Shia LaBeouf, I guess. He's kind of... So we can only go up from here, right? Okay, you got me. I set that up because obviously there were problems in making this movie. I used a joke where you thought the movie was going to be good and it was going to get better, but it wasn't. So Gotcha. No, but in all seriousness, this movie is not good. Now, if you don't know why this movie is not good, I'll give you a real quick rundown. Now, this film started production right after the original came out. The original made like $4 bazillion, so it had to. However, 2007 just happened to be the start of the writer's strike. This writer's strike lasted a whole year. So the day before going on strike, the writers were able to get a very basic outline of the story to Michael Bay, and then Bay wrote a 60-page extension of that basic outline. Which, knowing Michael Bay, it was probably interesting, I guess. Then, when the strike was over, the writers were swiftly locked into rooms where they had to pump out a script before the start of filming. There's even more drama behind the scenes with like VFX and stuff, but that's a little too deep to what we're going into here. The consensus is that maybe this movie was not made with the most love ever. In fact, it really feels like this movie was made more to capitalize on the hype from the first than an actual love for the property. But Bay was really into making these movies, so maybe I'm just spouting. All that is known is that out of the original 3 Bay movies, this is the black sheep. Anyways, has my opinion changed in the 2 paragraphs it's taken me to get to this point? No. This movie is bad. Like really bad. I guess to say stuff I like, well, they did cut down on all the unnecessary characters and plot lines from the original. This one focuses more on the core crew, which is nice. It is nowhere near as ugly, with normal colors and way less shaky cam. And there's definitely more focus on the Transformers in this rather than them just getting 2 fight scenes. They're actual characters. As well. Oh, that was all I had. Okay, then let's talk about why this movie's bad. Man, you can just feel that this thing was made during the writer's strike. In the opening seconds of this movie, the backstory of the villain is being explained, and then it's just cut away from, like out of nowhere. And it was at this moment I went, uh-oh, this movie's not gonna be very good. So here is my list of complaints. Why is everything so conveniently placed in this movie? Why does Sam just have a piece of the Allspark? Why, he just didn't realize in his back pocket was a piece of this all-powerful artifact? In this movie, it's been like a really long time since the first movie. Has he never washed these or felt them? I know he says he keeps the pants for memory, but then he would have touched them before. He would have touched them like, oh shoot, there's part of a cube in my pocket. Why is it so easy to revive Megatron? What, all they had to do was just not try to save him one by one? Also, it's just that easy to repair him? Man, then the Autobots should go fix up Jazz right now. He probably can be fixed. Why are the Primes the only being that can kill the Fallen? They never explained why, despite it being the catalyst for the second part of the movie. I would have liked, like, the tiniest explanation, even if it was bad, just like any would do fine. Also, the pacing is atrocious. Why is there no plot for like 45 minutes? It's just Sam dicking around and random shit happening, and that random shit kind of comes back later. What's the deal with the Transformer that transforms into an actual human? That seems like a good power that could be used. Or it could be used to make boring relationship drama. Sam is practically molested by this robot, and yet when he tells his girlfriend, she doesn't believe him, even though like he clearly was not in control of the situation. Also, what's there to do with the human robot? How does it become a human? Transformers are shown to like transform into cars they like select. How did it find this random white lady? Can all Transformers do this? Why are the characters just not funny anymore? I thought Sam was funny in the first movie. He had a lot of charm and he was cool. In this movie, most of his charm has just been ripped away. And like all his jokes are unfunny now. The whole movie is just unfunny now. The original made me laugh quite a bit, but this one I laughed like twice. Instead of all the actually funny jokes in the original, we get funny sex joke. Ha 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 ha. Get it? The robot transforms into lady and guess what? He starts getting assaulted. Isn't that funny? Ha 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 ha. The little fucking annoying robot sidekick is weird and pervy. And he humps Megan Fox's leg while calling her his goddess. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. The robot has balls. Get it? Because robots aren't supposed to have balls, but this one has 2 wrecking balls instead of normal balls because he's a robot. Get it? Ha 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 ha. Fuck it, I'm pissed. I'm gonna get petty. What is the fucking point of the second half of this movie? Okay, Optimus is dead and we need to revive him with Energon. Makes sense enough. Except we don't have any. And this big fuck ass machine will make it, but it will destroy the sun. So what the fuck is the plan? Oh, we're gonna go on a scavenger hunt for the key, but this is just to stop the Fallen from using the machine, which he forged into the pyramids, I guess. Also, how did the Fallen get to Earth? In the original movie, the Allspark was sent here, I'm pretty sure by accident. Optimus just had to make sure Megatron couldn't get the Allspark. But it turns out that Transformers have been on Earth for thousands of years. And I didn't write this in the script, but this is a plague that will hurt this franchise later on. Don't worry, we'll talk about it. So then they get the Matrix, but it turns to dust. And then Sam dies, and it makes the key. And then Sam plugs the key into Optimus, and it revives him? What the fuck? I'm coming back here. This is unscripted again. So, like, in the series, the Matrix is what gives Optimus his powers. It's what all Primes use to get their powers. But in this movie, I guess Optimus isn't powered by the Matrix because he doesn't have the Matrix, but then he gets the Matrix and then he comes back to life. But does that mean, how is he a Prime then? Does he not have the Matrix? And that doesn't explain it's still dumb. Can you tell this movie was written during the writer's strike? And then the Fallen finally decides to show up. This whole movie, this bum has been saying a Prime is the only one that can defeat him, and for half the fucking movie Optimus was dead, and he did straight nothing while Optimus was dead. But as soon, like the millisecond Optimus is revived, he's like, this is my time to join the fight. What the fuck? This would be like if I was getting robbed and the robber like slipped and dropped his gun and it went like 100 feet away and I waited for him to get his gun before I finally charged at him. It's really a shame because the Fallen's backstory is actually pretty sweet as the first Decepticon, and how the Matrix was hidden is also pretty cool. But he's barely in the movie despite the movie being named after him. Because guess what? They decided to revive Megatron as the main villain. I get it, Megatron is the big bad guy of Transformers, but just let him do his own thing. After Optimus is revived, we do get a pretty sweet scene where he takes parts from Jetfire, the best new Transformer, and maybe my favorite character in this movie. It's not a close competition. And then he kills the Fallen with Jetfire's parts. That was pretty cool. And then he also whoops Megatron's ass, which is also pretty cool. But seriously, why could only Optimus do this? What was stopping the billion new uninteresting Transformers from doing this? Why could they just not whoop the Fallen's ass? Oh yeah, I didn't even mention all the new Transformers in this movie except Jetfire suck. They're just annoying fucking pieces of shit. Also, new characters. You want to talk about new characters? I hate Sam's roommate. I can't stand this dude. There is no reason for him to follow them around. They're traveling across the world, he keeps following them. He's never fucking funny, and he's dead weight for the other characters in this. Oh my god, I fucking hate this. I realized looking back on this really isn't a review. It's more of a stream of conscious, but man, this film deserves it. I can't really think of a structural way to talk about this movie. This thing sucks, and nothing will change my mind on that. It's a cavalcade of ideas and bullshit thrown into one giant pot. I seriously can't believe this was the final product that they all saw and were like, yup, no problems here. And obviously the writer's strike really did affect it. They spent a lot of money and it still made a lot of money, so what do they care? But like this movie's really bad. It's luckily saved from being the true worst thing ever by having some pretty great effects. And hell, when the movie has the cool fighting robots, I'm always down. Like this one scene where Sam distracts the Decepticon and then Bumblebee sweeps in and fights him. That stuff is cool. Jetstream is cool. Shout out my boy R.I.P. Besides those positives I gave here and at the start, this movie blows ass. I can't believe it's this bad. If this series gets worse than this, I will be surprised, because this is true and utter buns. A film that like actively pissed me off while I was watching it to like a great degree. And the original was bloated in time. I already said that, like it was way too long. And this one's no different. This one's also so long. Oh my god. And while the original was bloated, I'd say this one deserves it less, because it's got less to tell and it's just filling it with bullshit. Okay, but seriously, this time maybe the next one will be better.
I tried hard, but where did we so long?
Oh, thank god. This movie's actually good. That means this movie is now the best in this series. That's right, baby. Give it up to Transformers. Now, that's not a super high bar. It means this movie holds the accomplishment of being a 6 out of 10. But I'm willing to admit this is the first movie in the series where I was actually entertained all the way through. The action is still pretty tight. The story, it's a little vague and not all the way there, but it's somewhat interesting. And I don't know, I guess I've grown kind of close to these characters. When Ironhide died, I was quite sad. And also, I think it helps that Sentinel Prime is actually a pretty good villain, and he's easily the best this series has had so far. Though his motives are a little clouded, they definitely work enough to be interesting. And I think this movie gets Sam Witwicky right again. After the speed bump that is Revenge of the Fallen, I think this movie rolls back his character a little bit and finds a happy medium. Except the one scene where he's like guilt trippy to Bumblebee. What the fuck was that? I would say the thing this movie does best, it's a lot more charming. Like, the first movie had a sense of charm. Was it always amazing? No, but it definitely had more charm than the second. A lot of the wit is actually back, and I did laugh a handful of times again. I thought a lot of the gags here were well, they weren't Transformer balls. And actually, one thing that I really noticed here is that the direction is pretty solid. I feel like Michael Bay put his best foot forward here for this one. There's honestly a lot of passion and tension behind a lot of moments in this movie. For example, I thought the opening of the movie was like really interesting and eerie. For a second, I would watch a movie about some evil entity on the moon, but I think they made a shitty found footage horror movie about that, so Now, I do want to say I don't think this is like the greatest directed thing ever. For every cool directional element, there still is a bunch of weird directing and editing choices here. But like, I noticed that his style peaks through not in the worst way in this movie. But maybe that's just Stockholm Syndrome for me. Seriously, multiple times watching this movie, I went, is this generally something I like, or am I falling for Michael Bay propaganda? Like, all my problems with this dude are still here. This movie, again, is way too long. It still is really weird towards women, and this one especially has the flaw of being maybe too violent. Like, I should be mad at the fact that they made Energon red just so that when they blew the head off the main villain, who by the way is on the floor begging for his life, it would look cooler. Michael, what the hell? Children watch these movies. But for some reason, that stuff just doesn't bother me as much. I got in the mindset of mindless action, and I fell for it. No. This can't be happening. Me liking a Michael Bay film? No. It can't be true. He made Armageddon. He, for some reason, made a movie about Pearl Harbor. Come on, Isaac. You gotta think of something bad to say. Come on. Nah, but in all seriousness, there's definitely stuff in this movie I don't like, plus the stuff I mentioned before. One of those things is Carly. Look, I get it. Megan Fox and Bay had a falling out right before the movie was about to start filming. There was legit no time to write a new character that would fit into the story. But man, this character just reeks of replacing an actor and barely changing the character. And it doesn't help because the emotional core of the movie is based on the fact that this really should be Sam and Michaela. So like, literally none of the beats that they want us to feel hit because it's a random lady we've never met before. I actually think this movie would be like a lot better if Michaela was actually in it. Because in the same way, like, Ironhide's death hits hard because we've known him for so many movies, I think Sam and Michaela's final moments in this movie would have been really nice. But no, we get a random supermodel lady. This is the girl Sam wants to spend the rest of his life with, the lady who he randomly met at the White House. I've got some other minor complaints to show I'm not falling for the propaganda. Like, there's a twist villain in this movie. He might be the most obvious twist villain I've ever seen in my life. Also, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, how much shit is going to land on Earth from Cybertron? Optimus tossed the Allspark into space and it just so happened to land here. The Fallen just so happened to be defeated on Earth. And now this ship from Cybertron just so happened to land on the moon. Are these two planets like right next to each other or something? Because they're throwing so much shit into space and it just ends up coming to Earth. But yeah, besides those complaints, I kind of like this movie. It's in a very guilty pleasure kind of way. Look, man, this isn't like high art. It's mindless, dumb fun. But it works for me here. I think Michael Bay found the perfect balance between the first two movies. And it honestly ends in a movie that I wouldn't mind watching again.
You, Michael Bay, you put a spell on me, you evil man.
But come on, what other kids movie has both the good guys and the bad guys break the Geneva Convention?
I don't see the dumbass Power Rangers doing that.
That's something only Michael Bay could do. Oh God. I can't believe it's this bad. I thought we could go no lower, but here we are. After watching Dark of the Moon, I did go, well, this story has a nice bow on it. I really don't know if there should be a sequel. You know, it's like that classic question, the trilogy is always like the perfect, the beginning, middle, and end. Is it really always a good idea to have a fourth one? But I made an excuse to myself. It more felt like Sam's story had wrapped up, not the series as a whole, so there could be more. That's actually why Shia LaBeouf didn't return. He said the exact same thing. It's safe to say I was skeptical, but I had hope. Don't ever have hope, children. Abandon all ye who enter, because what the hell is this movie? This is a movie that feels like it has lost all the passion and interest of the predecessors. It feels like Michael Bay gave up on the style of, well, flawed, definite passion projects. He probably did that because he did not want to make this movie. Let me give you an example of how bad this thing is and how little care went into making this movie. You know the Dinobots that are like all over the advertising for this movie? Well, they're in the movie for no fucking reason. There is no reason for them being there. They're just on an escape pod the Transformers used earlier in the movie. You could take them out of this movie and nothing would change. My only thought is that they were in the writer's room and they went, oh, wouldn't it be freaking cool if Optimus woke out dinosaurs and they woke dinosaurs in the battle? So yes, the thing this movie was built around, the marketing of this entire movie, doesn't even have a part in the main story. And they're barely in it. They're in the final action scene. It's insane that this was what they chose to market the movie around. They just transform into dinosaurs and Optimus is like, yo, let me ride you, bro. Also, why do they turn into dinosaurs? I know they're old, but like, why do they turn into dinosaurs? The Dinobots in the Gen 1 cartoon were just built. There was like a reason that they were stupid. Are you telling me every old Transformer just transforms into an old being? That's how that works? Okay. It feels like a dumb idea implanted by a kid or like an executive showing up and was like, hey man, you know what freaking sells? Dinosaurs sell tickets. And then the writers were too lazy to actually like do anything meaningful with the Dinobots, so they were like, just put them in the movie. I don't know what I'm talking about. This movie made $1 billion, so who am I to judge? Oh, and that's only the tip of the iceberg with this movie. I've got 1,000 more things to say. Let's talk about the main villain, huh? Lockdown. This was the only thing I really knew going into this movie. My friends were telling me he was really cool. And I guess they were right. In concept, he's really cool. But my problem with Lockdown is that he's such a fucking wasted character. How do you take this cool of a premise and fucking waste it? Lockdown is a bounty hunting transformer that aligns with neither the Autobots or the Decepticons. Wow, what a unique premise. How did they fuck that up? You wanna know how? You wanna know how? Well, he's not the main fucking villain. Yes, the sick bounty hunting robot is more of a side villain. And why is he here? Why is he in the movie? It's barely explained. He needs to like take Optimus to his creators. The whole thing with the creator of the Autobots, Autobots? The whole thing with the creator of the Autobots is a big problem, and it'll get worse, trust. But right now, it's just a stupid reason to have Lockdown here, because they barely explain it. Because who are these creators? What do they want? I don't know. All I know about these people is that they killed a bunch of dinosaurs at the start of the movie. Michael Bay, are you insinuating that the dinosaurs went extinct because of aliens? Look, man, I can accept that we went to the moon because of aliens, but dinosaurs? This is like a plot to Ancient Aliens. So pretty much we're taking the coolest villain in the series, idea-wise, and we're putting him in a story where he doesn't matter, and his whole purpose is to accomplish something that is barely explained. Good job, writing team. This segues into something that I'm pretty angry about. Oh my god, this story fucking sucks. Okay, let's break it down. So, in this movie, after what happened at the end of Dark of the Moon, the world is now against Transformers and what they stand for. Now, while this plot development is extremely stupid and dumb because first, they helped save the world twice already, and secondly, Optimus was tricked by Sentinel Prime. But fine, I guess I can live with this stupid idea. But then they have the audacity to just like kill the Transformers. Why would you do that? Why would you not just deport them like you tried to do before in the previous movie? Also, you're telling me everyone in the world is fine with killing Transformers because they might have done something bad even though they saved the day at the end, and we're all fine with them just murdering them? Now, they're murdering them because the main villain needs to melt them down to get their armor, because I guess the Allspark doesn't really matter, because now the movie says that their livelihood is like in transformium, because like when Megatron becomes Galvatron, he clearly is like the same dude. So like, what is the point of the Allspark now? Howdy, I'm here. I meant to say he's like the same dude in like a body sense. They explain why he has the same like conscience, because they like upload the conscience in the movie, but like it's still dumb that like he can come to life just the same as a normal Transformer, you know? That's still stupid. What happened to the Allspark? Also, I think it's bullshit that when it comes time to actually kill the Transformers, guess what? It's not the government doing it. Yes, the government who worked with them the entire series and seemed very mad at them are not the ones hunting them down, because God forbid we can show the government can be evil and contradictory, Michael. Yeah, I'm sure this random Black Ops unit are the only evil people in the world. God, I hate Cade. That's how much I hate him. He doesn't even get a segue. In comparison to Sam, he's such a weaker protagonist. I hate to say it, but Shia LaBeouf just had a lot more charm as a main character. On top of that, one thing I liked about Sam a lot was that he wasn't like a badass action hero. He was a goofy little boy who didn't know what he was doing, but he had a good heart and he wanted to help any way he could. When he fights Starscream in Dark of the Moon, that fight is scrappy as shit. So Cade is actually a freaking badass action dude, despite the fact that he's like a mechanic / inventor. Maybe it's just the fact that Mark Wahlberg is such like a basic actor. He can be fun and good, but God, he just isn't here. I've been going on for a long time, so here's a list of more complaints. I don't care about his daughter or her boyfriend. It's just like a nepo baby lady who can't act and this random Irish guy who also can't really act. Also, my favorite part about the movie was when he pulled out a card from his wallet that said he's not a pedophile. That was genuinely like the funniest thing I've ever seen. Why can't you just like make her an adult? Or like, why did we have to bring out the Romeo and Juliet law? I hate that they give a redemption arc to the main villain. He didn't deserve it. He killed a bunch of innocent Transformers who didn't do anything, but because he doesn't want to launch a nuke, I guess he's a good guy. Aw, because he didn't want to kill thousands of humans. He's a great guy deep down. Why don't the new bad guys transform? Just because they're made out of transformium, they don't need to transform? Bullshit. Every transformer is made out of transformium according to this movie. So why do they just turn into pixels and change into cars? The action is just so much worse now. It just feels lazy and sluggish. There was never a scene I found all that cool, except kinda when Optimus was riding the dinos, but again, that wasn't built up to at all, so it was stupid. T.J. Miller. I don't like these industry plant Transformers. They're all pretty lame, except for Hound, I guess. He's kind of cool. But the Samurai one is kind of like a fumbling of a cool concept. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember the other one. This movie has that really shitty 2010s slop trend where it's made in China just to make China look good. So I assume China must have funded this movie in some way. And oh my god, it's somehow the longest movie in the series at 2 hours and 45 minutes? What? I probably have more to say, but when I wrote this script, I watched the movie like a week prior, and I had been blocking it out of my mind because I was so angry at it while I was watching. I fucking hate this movie. It's not good, and it makes Revenge of the Fallen look like 1,000 times better. I can't believe they released it, and it made $1 billion fucking dollars. So fuck it. We got one more Michael Bay movie left. I have no expectations. This next movie, it could be the worst shit ever made. Or it could be a damn masterpiece. Let's see it, huh? Come on, future Isaac, where does the next movie land?
Bitch, get out of my away.
It is not good. Okay, I do want to say something. There was a month between me watching these two movies. Extinction made me that mad. And yes, like I said in my funny transition, this movie isn't good, but strangely not in the same way Extinction's not good. You see, this movie is fucking batshit. This is one of the most incomprehensible movies I have ever watched. I thought maybe it was just because I was a tiny bit sleepy when I watched it, or I was dumb or something. But then I went on Letterboxd and nope, literally everyone agreed with me. And when I say incomprehensible, this is one of the worst written movies I have ever seen. It is truly baffling how much shit is thrown into this movie with no explanation. King Arthur and Merlin the Wizard? Yeah, they're here. A dragon transformer? Yeah, that's Merlin's buddy. Anthony Hopkins is part of an ancient society to protect Transformers with his robot butler? That's here too. Optimus Prime is infected with evilness from a lady who lives on Cybertron. Yep, that happens. I swear this movie is apeshit. It doesn't slow down at all. I don't know what the writers were taking while making this, but keep me away from it, man. Oh my god. And I'm gonna be honest, this is the movie where I gave up on caring about the retcons. I truly have never seen a series contradict itself more than this one. So let's get this timeline straight. Megatron originally came to Earth because the Allspark landed here after Optimus threw it into space, but also the Fallen came here years earlier to harvest energon from the planet. But you can't forget that Sentinel Prime landed on the moon years later, but also the creators of the Transformers killed the dinosaur. Also, I guess there were knights who fought with King Arthur. But the keen fan of Transformers might go, well, this movie tries to explain their connection a lot more. Which I say, yeah, I guess it does. So apparently, according to the main villain lady of this movie, who is easily the worst villain in the series, she's barely in it, the Earth is Unicron. Who is that to us new viewers? Well, don't worry, Optimus shares this very natural exchange about who he is.
Earth, Unicron, Cybertron's ancient enemy.
Yes.
So apparently Transformers are attached to Earth because it's Transformer Galactus. Like I said, this movie is batshit crazy. But despite the craziness, or maybe because of it, this movie is hilarious. Where Extinction failed was because it was a bad movie and it was just pretty boring. This movie is so fast-paced and so much shit is happening that you can barely process it. So many new characters are introduced that it feels like I'm speed running a movie. Because another major problem with this series is Michael Bay constantly replacing his main cast. Because we have to establish all these new characters one at a time. We need a new love interest. We need Anthony Hopkins. We need this little Hispanic girl who I legit forgot was in the movie until she popped up in the final act. Everything is coming at you at 4 million miles an hour. It feels like injecting caffeine straight into your veins. I generally don't think there's just like one scene where the characters are chilling. Everything is always happening, and because of that, I had a great time watching this. It was a jolt of awakening after the melatonin bottle that was Extinction. But aside from the insane writing, the filmmaking hasn't gotten much better. It's about on par with the previous movie. You can just seriously tell that Bay was getting tired of making these movies and wanted out. And sometimes the action can feel really lifeless. All the actors are fine. Anthony Hopkins is definitely having fun, probably because he was definitely getting a huge bag for this movie. Mark Wahlberg is, he's still himself, and so is this new British lady. I mean, she's better than pedophile guy and nepo baby lady, so I'll take it. All the new Transformers are still pretty mid. I'm not interested really in any of them, except Hound. I still love you, Hound. Although there is one thing I want to say, because it's at its most glaring here. Oh my goodness, please stop giving Transformers human faces. It's really apparent when you juxtapose it to the characters designed in the first movie, and then you have like the characters now. They look freakish. These are aliens. Why would they look exactly like us? The villain of this movie, who she technically isn't a Transformer, but it doesn't matter. She looks so weird. It's just a face imposed on this weird god lady, and it creeps me out, man. Why couldn't you give her a more simple, godlike design? Why does she have to look like a weird human? Besides that, I don't have much else to say. A baffling movie that is the kind of thing you show in a screenwriting class and go, okay, so don't do this. Actual $250 million to slop. But sometimes I enjoy a little bit of slop. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wrap on Bayformers. As a whole, Not great. Probably not the way to get myself into Transformers. I think ultimately these movies just aren't my style because I'm not a big Michael Bay fan. He just gets in the same realm as Zack Snyder for me as people who think they're making way cooler movies than they actually are. But I think I took away from this that Transformers are cool. In fact, I would say the humans are the part that dragged this series down a lot. I kind of wish it was just about the bots. But it's a live action movie, so we can't do that. We would run out of money. As for right now, let's finally move on from Bayformers. Let's see if Transformers in some different hands can intrigue me a little more.
They literally call themselves Decepticons. That doesn't sound like red flags.
Bumblebee is really cute. I dig this movie a lot. From its opening scene, I had more serotonin than any of the action sequences in the last two movies. And yes, the movie may peak in the opening scene, but I like a lot of the rest of the movie, so it's fine. The funny thing about this movie is that it's not really a Transformers movie. It's got the characters and Cybertron, but very little else. Bumblebee is the only Autobot for like 99% of the movie, and the main villains are just two Decepticons. No, this movie is just a coming-of-age story, more or less. Just the coming-of-age is between a teenage girl and her giant robot car. And while it isn't the greatest coming-of-age movie ever, it's pretty charming. I saw a Letterboxd review that said this movie thrives on the fact that it is similar to other coming-of-age movies, and I agree. Coming-of-age movies have a lot of different plots, but ultimately they follow very similar lines of progression and ideas. So coming-of-age movies usually rely on charming actors and charming scenarios. And I think this movie nails both those things. Haley Steinfeld is such a good protagonist. I think it definitely helps that she was in like another coming-of-age movie before this, but I often forget how good at like in-person acting she is. She's more than just like Gwen Stacy and being married to a guy who can't win in the playoffs. Her chemistry with Bumblebee is really good, and I truly believe she loves this little beetle. I also like her little boyfriend character. Even if he felt a little rushed, he's just a cute little guy with some sweet ass posters in his room. And of course, I love Bumblebee. I want to give Michael Bay some credit here. I like the addition of making Bumblebee mute. And I know this is like a debated topic in the fandom, so I'm just gonna give my take here. In the clips I've seen from the animated show, he's like a little guy with a lot of attitude. He reminds me a lot of someone like comic book Wolverine, who's just kind of like a little manlet. But I think making him mute makes him much more interesting, especially in a movie like this where Bumblebee is an underdog. I think it makes for a more intriguing element to the character. Also, the Autobot designs in this movie are sweet. I appreciate the much more simple designs, especially on the Decepticons. Oh my god, they actually look cool and unique. And it's nice to get a solid, was it Deutero antagonist? What would it be? That's not a word, I just looked it up. I can call him a dragon or a secondary antagonist. I'll call him a dragon. That's so cool. It's nice to have a dragon villain. A dragon villain in John Cena. Especially when the rest of the human antagonists in the series are usually, But seriously, John Cena is pretty interesting with his character never really choosing a side. Like, he's a conflict throughout the story, there's no doubt to that. But I like his outside moral compass, and I really like that he questions the Decepticons' true intentions. And I think it ultimately leads to a very interesting conclusion for his character with the final choice he makes at the end. Now, with all that said, this movie's not perfect, yada yada yada. I like how generic it is, but ultimately, it's still a generic coming-of-age story. And ultimately, you'll see beats you've seen in other movies, and it'll become a little more uninteresting. As well, the movie clearly does get worse as it goes on, with the last act being very clearly the weakest part of the movie, before the final action scene and the ending ultimately kind of pull it back together. And besides John Cena, the rest of the military guys they're pretty uninteresting. The family is kind of annoying, and I don't think their redemption arc by the end is truly earned that well. Also, the brother is played by Greg from Diary of a Wimpy Kid 4, so immediate points down for this movie. And a little nitpick I have, I don't like that the movie ends with sequel bait. Like, I get it, the Transformers are a series. We want to transform this. Hey, you see what I did there? We want to transform this into a larger expanding franchise since our old one is dead in the water. But this is a really cute, quaint movie, and sequel bait really wasn't necessary, even though it worked. And maybe the biggest flaw talked about with this movie, the 80s aesthetic. Stranger Things Season 1 launch in 2016 really just had a grap on media till like 2020 with this whole 80s aesthetic. And this movie's visual style isn't that egregious with it. Look at something like Stranger Things Season 3, and that's like way more nostalgia bait with the visuals. But the soundtrack in this movie, it's a little much. The movie front loads with like 15 different 80s songs. And then it kind of just drops the aesthetic as the movie goes on. Like I said, the third act kind of falls apart. It loses a lot of identity. This bothers me mainly because it's nostalgia bait. Okay, look at, we gotta have 80s music. But I've always said this is more a personal thing. I don't think 80s music is like the pinnacle of music, y'all. Like, you have 2 decades of music right next to it that are vastly more interesting sonically. And guys, the Smiths aren't this good. I like the Smiths. They're not this good. But as a whole, Bumblebee is a quaint, cute little movie. This is, sadly, probably my favorite movie so far, because it's kind of the only thing I've watched so far that is, like, an actual movie. But, whatever, it's fun. I feel like I could, like, easily fall asleep to this movie at night. It's calming, it's charming. I like it. Also, I am paternal for Bumblebee. Going into this movie, I was pretty excited because of Bumblebee. Why did I sound like a cowboy right there? I'm keeping that. It had a similar art style, the Beast Transformers seemed pretty cool, and yeah, I had high hopes for this movie. My friends did keep saying that it was bad, but heck, they like Transformers 4. What do they know? Oh man. This movie's boring as shit. I mean it when I say it, this is the most generic movie out of all the ones we've watched. Yeah, Bumblebee kind of just followed those coming of age themes, but this generally is just the most basic summer action movie you could ask for. Like, this is just modern Marvel movie level quality. It's full of bad jokes, you get no one you really care about, and a shallow attempt at nostalgia bait with the 90s aesthetic. It's sad because there are a lot of cool ideas here. I think Noah is a pretty interesting character. I think they set Unicron up as a villain a lot better here than they did in The Last Night. And the Transformer Beasts are, they're kind of cool. But at the end of the day, nothing really becomes of any of these ideas. I found Noah quite charming for a minute, but he kind of just morphs from this guy trying to get by into like generic action hero, which sounds like something else that happened earlier, But seriously, his motivation after meeting the Transformers in the second half of the movie is that he doesn't want anyone to hurt the Earth. Wow, that's real interesting. That's real introspective. And I only really make fun of it because that's exactly his words. That's exactly what he says. There also is a girl protagonist. I've now given the same amount of attention to the girl protagonist as the rest of the movie. There's not a lot for me to say because a lot of this movie is just aggressively mediocre. Pretty much every aspect about the movie is just so fine. There's nothing for me to talk about here. Wait a minute. I've got one thing. First off, let me say something. I like Pete Davidson. He seems like a pretty chill guy. I like some of his stand-up, and he's pretty good in some movies. All that being said, holy shit, I can't stand Mirage. I can't stand Mirage. Oh my god, man, he's so fucking annoying. I just can't stand when a movie is trying so hard to make a character the next ultra funny thing because it feels so forced. I'm fine with funny Transformers characters, but man, this is just too much. I get what they're trying to go for here, but he maybe only made me laugh like once or twice. And it doesn't help that he just sounds like Pete Davidson. Like, there's nothing unique about his voice. The entire time I watch this character, it feels like I'm watching a bad parody on SNL. And when he dies, which is the most predictable thing ever, because remember, this is the most generic action movie ever made, he turns Noah into a mech suit. And that's where I give up. This is not a Transformers movie now. I'm watching a guy who's just CGI'd into a mech suit fight with... And then this is all my disappointment's compacted even more when in the post-credit scene they try to make this a G.I. Joe crossover series. I can't. What? Beast Wars is a Transformers spin-off series, so like I can understand why they try to put that in here. But the only reason we're trying to put G.I. Joe in here is because it's another popular 80s cartoon. If this movie had succeeded, which by the way it didn't, would we have had a Masters of the Universe crossover too? Were the fucking Ninja Turtles gonna show up? At that point, I might as well just go watch like Ready Player One. It'll probably be the same level quality of fucking slop! The classic tale of Icarus is used in order to illustrate someone getting too confident in a certain outcome. I think often people see too many things within the Transformers series. They perceive them as simple placeholders in order to tell other stories, not respecting the fact that Transformers have their own history and they're cool on their own. They don't need other properties to be cool. They can do so many things beyond being robots who fight and turn into cars. That's why I said earlier, humans dragged the Bayformers series down a lot, because it takes away from the central idea of the Transformers due to the fact that I guess people would rather watch humans humans have strifes and conflicts over the main robots. It feels so insulting to watch how they disrespect these characters over and over again. Besides Bumblebee, barely any of the characters in these films have gotten any arcs. They don't change because we gotta make way for the humans or the new property that we want to shove in. In all these movies, Optimus is stoic leader guy who leads the Autobots. He's given some conflict sometimes, like in Age of Extinction when they're literally exterminating all Autobots, but he's never given full attention because we gotta make way for fucking Mark Wahlberg. The people who create this movie seemingly fly so close to the sun, to this expanded universe of the Transformers, but they never really look at the core of what needs to be good for that to happen, the Transformers. So with time, I've come to really love the Transformers, their conflicts, their people, their history, but I can't say I love most of these movies because that's not what they're about. Transformers 1 is the biggest breath of fresh air. Oh my god, this movie is so good. This whole binge has been worth it just to see this. But at the same time, I am glad I watched all those other movies because it allowed me to understand and appreciate this one so much more. Transformers 1 is one, get it? It's one of the most mature and interesting animated films I've watched in a while. And I call it an animated film and not a kid's film for a reason. So often animation gets mixed in with it's for kids. But a movie like this proves that just because an animated movie is rated PG doesn't mean it's only for kids. This movie's got some real interesting and mature ideas. And before we talk about the thing that I'm sure everyone wants to talk about, let's talk about all the other great things with this movie. Oh my god, the animation is so good. Not only the color schemes, but just the world and how it looks. The design of Cybertron, both Iacon City and the surface of the planet itself, are jaw-dropping. With Iacon City being this kind of beautiful city that never sleeps where everything is going on, with the surface of Cybertron being mostly this desolate and abandoned land, but also having elements of life within it, it's beautiful. And the character designs are just as phenomenal. Each Transformer looks unique and beautiful. I think they reached the peak of the mix of modern designs and Gen 1 designs. The way each blocky piece moves together is just so beautiful. And since this is like a fully animated movie, we can have much better action scenes since we don't have to blend them into the real world anymore. When the Transformers actually battle, holy crap, the way they'll transform mid-battle then transform back, it's so awesome. Or look at like a non-fighting scene like the Iacon 500 where everything is going on all at once. Just the amount of detail in every scene of this film is impeccable. But I think like most people, what makes me really especially love this movie is the writing. Again, ignoring the bit relationship, the world and characters presented here are so much more interesting than what we've seen the entire series so far. As someone who's only watched these movies, Cybertron is always painted as this fallen utopia. So coming into this movie and seeing Cybertron in such a shitty state is such an interesting take. And that mainly develops with one of my favorite parts of this movie, Sentinel Prime. I liked him in Dark of the Moon, but he more felt like someone with a lot more potential than he was given. Well, guess what? Here's that potential. In this movie, he's rather not a man who betrayed the Autobots in a misguided way, but he's just a dickhead. Sentinel Prime is someone who betrayed the other Primes and pretty much fucked over their entire planet just so he could be the center of attention, just so he could be the figurehead. And now he puts the entire planet, everyone who he sees below him, into slavery to make up for something that he did. And when you first meet him, you can tell there is something off about him, but you never know to what extent exactly. But when you finally get to that scene where he meets up with the Quintessons and he bows down to them, my jaw dropped. This fucking weasel desolated his entire planet just so he could be the centerhead, and guess what? He's still fucking sucking the dick of his main enemy. He's such a coward, but he hides behind this veil. And even in the final battle, when everything is crumbling around him, he still gloats and gloats. And it isn't till he's on his knees, about to die, that he turns into the little weasel that betrayed the world. He does exactly to D16 what he does to the Quintessons, and he begs, because he's a false hero. He's not anything. But guess what? he ultimately meets a fate deserving of a man who fucked over his entire planet and his entire people. What a fucking villain, man. Side note, I also really like his design because in a way it seems like a savior design. The bright colors, the wings, but also it's kind of villainous when you look at him in more of an evil light. It's a great little attention to detail. Now, while I really love this movie, its flaws are often pointed out, and usually everyone has the same kind of flaws with this movie. The humor really is hit or miss. There are some really funny jokes.
Why not? It's not like you can transform.
Oh yeah? Well, watch this.
And some really lame ones. A lot of the complaints go especially to Bumblebee, and while I don't think it's as bad as many people say, it's still not great. Keegan-Michael Key is like one of the funniest people ever, but his quirk Chungus moments really suck. And it doesn't help that his introduction scene is by far the worst. Like, they front load all the worst moments right there. And speaking of Bumblebee, I feel a decent chunk of the side characters are underdeveloped. Bumblebee and Alita are their all movie, but them as characters feel a little undercooked. They feel like, well, we gotta get a crew together for Optimus Prime. But maybe they were to be fleshed out later in future movies. But I'm totally willing to lose those characters for the relationship between Orion Pax and D16. You know I was waiting to talk about it, so let's talk about the best part of the movie. When you start the film, you see these two characters and your mind immediately goes, oh, that's Optimus and Megatron. So there's no opportunity to have like a twist. That was really Megatron the whole time. Because, we already know it's Megatron, obviously. But the movie understands that we know that, and the relationship between Orion and D16 becomes not a twist of villainhood, but a falling out of friendship through change and ideas. When the movie starts and you see Optimus is the reckless, crazy one, and Megatron is the smart, forward-looking one, it's fascinating. Everyone knows how Optimus and Megatron are supposed to be, so by having them be not only polar opposites of who they'll become, but inverses of each other is so interesting. And the movie does such a great job establishing why these two would still be close. Shout out to Brian Tyree Henry and Chris Hemsworth, who really have to sell that these two are close friends, because that's what the entire movie relies on. As the film goes on, we see them start to evolve into the people they're going to be. We see what events would motivate them to become like this. But also because of those events, we see how they slowly break apart as friends. And at first, I didn't 100% understand why D16 switches so fast to being so evil. But then I thought about it more. D16 is the company man, while Orion is a man who disobeys and rejects the system. So when they find out Sentinel's true morals, obviously the rebel would be less affected than the man who put his entire life on the line for these principles. D16 was ready to give his entire life and blood to a dickhead who sold his race out to their mortal enemies. And this rage he develops from this is so intriguing. It's so sudden and it happens so fast that even you, the viewer, are surprised. He starts doing things so quickly that are out of character that you can't keep up with him, which ultimately leads to one of the most shocking moments I've seen in a movie recently. When he drops Optimus to die, that's the moment he becomes Megatron. That's the moment when everything's lost. His rage is no longer justified. He's now just a man on a destructive path. And that final battle is just so emotional, man. These characters who we've seen be friends the entire film are now just duking out. But you want them to be close. You want them to care for each other. You don't want this to happen. It's absolutely heartbreaking, man. This movie's absolutely fantastic. Well, we're here. After several movies, I've seen every theatrical Transformers movie. And man, I'm kind of disappointed. I mean, what, after all this, we got 3 movies I liked and only one of those I loved? It sucks because, like I said earlier, I've really grown to like the Transformers. And they can be done so well. We literally just talked about that with Transformers 1. So now, I'm left with an empty Transformers hole in my heart. Damn. Alright, you know what, fuck it. Some part of me feels glad I'm talking about this because it shows my growth as a Transformers fan. But the other part of me is saying, damn, I was right. Because the first third of this movie is playing off the Gen 1 cartoon. Who is this guy in the mech suit? And why is there an Autobot city? Oh, and we are back on Cybertron? I guess Cybertron's all good? And while I did do my basic look into Gen 1 and its important characters, like I do know that guy is named Spike now, it still feels like I was kind of missing something. And now I gotta deal with all these characters who I barely know. Oh, they just brutally murdered them. Yep, they brutally murdered all the Transformers in this Transformers Kids movie. Spoilers for a 40-year-old movie, but like, god damn. I knew Optimus died in this movie. I think it's impossible not to know that, but like, Jesus, they kill everyone. And not in like hero's death, last gasp, bleeding out moments. Look at Ironhide. He is slaughtered with no remorse. He's just gone like that. This is really specific, but remember when like Hell Let Loose was getting really popular and people talked about how there were no hit markers and that it was scary because it was like, oh, they just die. Well, this is that in movie form. So yeah, it turns out like every old character is gone by the halfway point of the movie. And they're replaced with an entirely new crew, which I would say is for dramatic tension, but it was so they could sell more toys. This therefore makes this a really weird movie to talk about because all the characters I've talked about for like the past hour-ish, they were just brutally murdered. As for the new characters, they're fine. They seriously give off some industry plant vibes. Sorry, Rodimus, you're kinda cool, but like, you're not Optimus. One cool thing about this movie is Unicron. I've watched this series try so hard to make this guy a villain, and I think this movie shows the faults in that. A lot of the movies try to establish the lore and threat of Unicron. I guess from a lot of writers' perspectives, it's hard to establish this planet that eats things. It's kind of a weird visual. Also, I think everyone was trying to capitalize off like the Thanos hype, you know? But this movie says, what if we just make the opening scene him eating an entire planet and murdering them all brutally? And yeah, that's how you make that character work. Hey, I forgot to mention that literally happens in Rise of the Beast. It's probably more a dig against Rise of the Beast because I literally do not remember that happening whatsoever and I forgot to write it in. Also, I forgot to mention that Unicron is played by Orson Welles. I don't know how they got him, but sure. The opening scene of this movie is so fucking sick, man. And even after the incredible feat that is destroying an entire planet, he remains a very interesting villain. His voice is so threatening with this calming yet menacing tone. And I think this movie does an aspect of show not tell very well because we saw him destroy the entire planet at the beginning. So therefore, when the characters are like, oh my god, this guy is the scariest guy ever, we are so fucked, you believe them. Because he fucking killed a bunch of people. Also, when he transforms into well, not a planet, he's still really cool. My favorite part about him is easily his design, which is one of my favorite parts about this movie in general. Easily the best parts are like the art and sound design. I've seen clips of the original series and some of them look pretty rough. But man, this art style, it's gorgeous. The slick 80s Saturday morning cartoon vibe is one of my favorite art styles. But a lot of time, I feel like its essence can only be captured in stills because it's just so detailed often. But this movie just constantly oozes that style. It radiates this neo-punk world with all elements spilling out color and personality. You can clearly see Transformers 1 took a lot of inspiration from how this movie looks. And I'm willing to say this is probably one of the most gorgeous animated movies ever made. It's that beautiful. As well, the music just goes so fucking hard. Just look up what songs were made for this movie. Oh my god. This is like peak 80s soundtrack, and it's actually bonkers. This is what the Bumblebee soundtrack wanted to be. The absolute vibes that come from the fight scenes while epic 80s music is playing is unbeatable. They're so unbeatable, I don't mind when they replay the songs over and over again. Now, I will say, a lot of stuff is sacrificed to get this absolutely gorgeous visual style, because this is definitely a style over substance kind of movie. Yeah, the animation, character designs, and music are banging, but start asking about the story and characters, and the story is the generic stop bad guys plot that's been done infinity times. And that's fine. Cliche plots are fine if carried by good characters. We literally talked about that with Bumblebee. But the problem is the characters we already knew were kind of killed off, and now we have to try to establish like 30 new characters in an hour. And by the time the credits wrapped, I said I'm glad the good guys won, but I don't really care that they won. But it's really amazing that a film this stylish and cool came out of a glorified commercial. Literally, as I was watching this, I went, oh, that's meant to be a toy, and that's meant to be a toy, and that's meant to be a toy, and that. But ultimately, it didn't ruin this very stylish 80s movie that I had a lot of fun watching. A film that was definitely worth a detour. After all this time, I've grown accustomed to these little robot guys. Yeah, I didn't enjoy a decent chunk of the movies, but I did enjoy another chunk of the movies. And most importantly, I really fell in love with these characters. This world, how everyone's relationships connect, it's really interesting. I even fell for the propaganda and bought some figures. And now maybe I'll branch out to some more franchises now. I never got into those Power Rangers, so maybe I'll try to get into them. But for sure, I am to consume some more Transformer media. There's some shows I hear good things about, and I want to check those out whenever I have free time. And just maybe, I'll be seated for the Michael Bay Unicron movie. Don't tell anyone I said that. So if you're watching this, check out Transformers. They may not always be perfect, but perfection is not what we seek, but rather the experiences within imperfection. Cue my Linkin Park music, baby.